Okay, welcome, welcome. We'll be getting started here in about 3 minutes, promptly at 11 a.m. A couple housekeeping rules to go over. Networking will happen in the chat box. Questions will go in the Q&A box. And again, stay tuned. We'll be starting here real shortly. All right, welcome. And for those that are just trickling in here now, I'll go through a couple more housekeeping rules for anyone that did not catch those. Housekeeping rules: networking will happen in the chat box. Questions will go to the Q&A box, and we'll answer those as we can going through the webinar. But thank you for joining. Welcome. We have a great webinar today to discuss growing and expanding your business with the U.S. Department of Energy. Today we'll learn about what capabilities the U.S. Department of Energy is looking for from companies, how to navigate the acquisition process, whom to sell to, and how. And then we will discuss how to connect with program managers and any tips, tricks that are helpful in achieving this. So let's get into it. All right. So I am your host. Oops, excuse me here. I am your host, Kyle Adams. I've been in the government contracting space for the last 10 years, working with small businesses, obtaining government contracts, specifically around proposal management, proposal writing, business development. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Our speaker today, Shalea Morissette, she's the Chief of Minority Business and Workforce Division, Office of Economic Impact and Diversity at the U.S. Department of Energy. Just one second here. Most recently, she hails from the utility sector in safety and in compliance. In 2022, she took on an additional role at Dearborn STEM Academy in Boston, Massachusetts, as a teacher to 11th and 12th graders, delivering a curriculum for engineering with energy in mind. Previously, she held various roles in higher education, including enrollment services, project manager, and in global transportation as the director of affiliate relations. She is the former president of the Greater Boston chapter of the American Association of Blacks in Energy, serving as the first African American board member of the New England Women in Energy and Environment. She has been devoted to elevating and engaging women and people of color in the energy space. As a Georgia Gwinnett College Alumni Association board member and a committee member for Browning the Green Space, she has been engaged in the nonprofit and higher education space as a strong advocate for elevating minorities in the energy transition. Morissette's passion for bringing young people into the clean energy industry has also been supported with her work with Girls Inc. and Right Boston. Shalea received her bachelor degree from Georgia Gwinnett College and her master's from Cambridge College. She comes with a wealth of knowledge. Our moderator, Dr. Gwendolyn Henry. She is a franchise director with BidExecs Southern Virginia. She's been serving the private and public sector in program and financial management for 20 years, supporting the Department of Defense, Intelligence Community, U.S. Army, and U.S. Air Force. Dr. Henry holds a bachelor's degree in business administration, a master's in public administration, and a doctorate in business administration and management. She holds a certified defense financial manager certification. Dr. Henry is a member of National Small Business Administration Leadership Council, the American Society of Military Comptrollers, and the Southwest Virginia Diverse Chamber of Commerce. She has owned and operated businesses in Northern Virginia, North Carolina, and California. Dr. Henry serves as an entrepreneurial and transformational leader in her church and community. When she is not working, you can find her loving on family and friends, traveling, watching a good sports game, cooking, and being a foodie and fashion fanatic. Reading and hiking are some other pleasures she enjoys. Okay, so let's get into it. Without further ado, I'll introduce you to Shalea Morissette with the Department of Energy. And let me stop sharing and let you go there, Shalea.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Big thanks to everybody sharing their morning with me. You could be doing a million other things. So I appreciate you being here to gain more insight on what we're doing here at the department and all the funding opportunities that we have. So let's just get into a little bit of sharing of the screen so you all can follow along as I walk through. Kyle, can you see my screen? Awesome. So again, my name is Shalea Morissette, Chief of Minority Business and Workforce Division here at the Office of Economic Impact and Diversity for the U.S. Department of Energy. If you have questions, feel free to jump in. I'm going to give you a little oversight on what we do. If you're not familiar, just to get you up to speed, and then we'll jump into a lot of the opportunities that we have, and I'll give you some tips and insight on how to really engage with us. So with that, the mammoth that we call Department of Energy really is massive. So on the right side of your screen, you're seeing what our org chart really looks like. Couple of fast facts. My little office, Office of Economic Impact, was established in 1978. A year after the department was established. So the inside joke is like, hey, even back then, Congress knew that this office was important and had to be here. So we've been operating at different levels in terms of our size and scope over the many years. We're now a department of about 100 people. We're looking to grow that to 110 people by the end of next year. We actually oversee 17 national laboratories that other agencies actually utilize. We have 14,000 federal employees. We support 25,000 researchers, and we actually are responsible for about 39% of the federal funding in the physical sciences. So with that, we also have over 95,000 management and operating contractors and contractor employees. So right now we are committed, this is about a month old, to $48 billion, billion with a B, and 161 billion in our total budgetary resources. So in grants for new awards this year, we've allocated $3.92 billion so far. And for contracts, we've issued 13 and change new contracts. I see a hand up. Just want to make sure that we jump to that. Maybe I can answer the question in this moment. Not sure. Can you all hear me? Maybe that is the question, and see the screen.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. And Kyle, feel free to throw me the question whenever. I'm going to keep going to keep us on time.
Okay. I don't see a hand though.
I saw a quick hand come up, but that's okay.
Could have been on accident.
Could be, no worries. Office of Economic Impact is over here in this little blue square. The departments that I'll talk to you about today are in bold. So that's the manufacturing and energy supply chain, state community energy programs, clean energy demonstration, and the loan program office. I'm going to talk to you about these because these are the largest in terms of dollars. Among these are about $100 billion between them. So that is the focus for today. My little office, our role in all of these dollars is to make sure that everybody is afforded the opportunity to know about where the opportunities lie, and they have the right resources and know about the different programs within the agency. This is my lovely team. We are a team of 11. Everything in blue on this map is where we have been. In the coming year, we'll likely revisit those locations, but we'll get to all the other states. We did get to Alaska, but we didn't get to Puerto Rico. So this year, we have a lot more work to do. These folks are specialists in their own right. Some actually are former business owners and took a risk and said, Shalea, yes, I'll come and work with you. Others are attorneys. Melissa Pine in particular has been a contracting officer with the agency for over 13 years. And she said, Shalea, I want to come work with you. Simon has a tribal law background. Tyrone has been in government for 30 years working with the Navy and others. He is my business analyst and has a heavy focus on the data that we use. Greg is an electrical engineer by trade. Mr. Ben Horn actually speaks 7 different languages and has heavy ties to interfaith communities. Charles, my lovely economist, he's the youngest of the group, but is incredibly knowledgeable. James has a background as a 2-time disabled veteran in Marines and Army, but has worked for the Department of Labor for the last 7 years. Jimmy also gave 20 years to the Air Force and has been at the agency for 8 years. So we have a phenomenal team that helps me be great and helps minorities all over the countries that are operating businesses make sure that they know about all the opportunities. So with that, if you want to do a follow-up, quick plug, we had to reschedule this one for this month, but we run an Ask Us Anything series. You can meet the whole team. You can come out. We will do a mini short 15-minute presentation, and then we go into breakout sessions and we answer as many questions as we possibly can. But this coming month in October, we will have the procurement folks with us doing a presentation and answering your questions as well. Internally, we call those folks MA64, but that's the group that'll be doing that presentation, but the team will be on the call. We are rescheduling SBIR, which I'll talk to you about today, probably in January, but for the rest of the year, you'll get these slides. You can click on the links and get registered and attend. So here's what you are seeing on television, right? Department of Energy has gotten all of this money, $62 billion to be exact, just out of the bill. And I believe that number has gone up since this slide to about 100 billion total over the next 2 to 4 years, right? If you don't know anything about the department, prior to bill and IRA, about 1/3 of our budget goes towards military weapons, right? Nuclear weapons to be exact. This year alone, we're spending $17.5 billion just on that. So if you're in that space, let me know, and happy to connect you because they're always looking for those that have that level of clearance or are interested. There's another $30+ billion just through the IRA. And to be specific, $390 billion in climate spending throughout all of the agencies. We're leveraging the CHIPS Act, which we talked about a lot, but really the goal of that act is to make sure that we are doing domestic manufacturing and science and R&D here on US soil. On the right of your screen, you'll see that there is a breakdown of how we're spending a lot of this money. These numbers have since gone up, but you're looking at 3.1 billion just in energy efficiency. This is what you can use at home through your states, another 3.1 billion for battery manufacturing and supply chain. In those two things, I want you to recognize that there are so many opportunities in this supply chain. If you are a contractor installing windows, there's an opportunity here for you. If you are in manufacturing currently and you want to expand and do something in energy, there's an opportunity here for you. So this is just a high-level view that we will dig deep into during this presentation. Justice 40. Everybody hears about it. I don't think people actually understand what it is. It is not a program that you sign up for. It is legislation. It is an executive order by President Biden that tells us, hey, 40% of your overall benefits of certain federal investments must flow to disadvantaged communities. What's important here is what is a disadvantaged community? Let me be clear. Disadvantage is not defined by race. It does not mean black and brown. There are 36 different points that qualify you as a disadvantaged community. It's things like higher rates of cancer, single family households. Is there a public transportation system? But the common denominator is actually low income. So if we are spending money on the things on the left side of your screen, clean energy, energy efficiency, training and workforce development, 40% of the benefits must flow to disadvantaged communities. The interesting piece about this is that you, as an applicant, must prove to us how you're going to do this. We don't define that for you. In your articulation, you have to tell us how you're going to do that. So if we're spending money, whether federal grants or procurement spending, whatever that looks like, and we are dealing in these covered programs, it is subjected to Justice 40, which means that 40% has to flow to disadvantaged communities. Okay. Here's what you need to know. For the first time in history, all the federal agencies to define disadvantaged communities will use the same map. What's on your left, this lovely lots of purple, is what we're now using. What's on your right is what we were using before. This should scream at you opportunity to jump in and help these disadvantaged communities. There's an opportunity here. What I will tell you is when you're applying for our dollars, go to this link, pull up the zip code that you're going to be working in, print out a copy of that map. On the right side of the screen, you'll see all the reasons why it's considered disadvantaged. It will tell you, and put it with your application. Use this information in your actual application. Do not make reference to it. Print it out, put it with the application. Very important information to utilize for all agencies, but especially for us. Essentially, what that map did was define community, either a group of individuals living in a geographic area in proximity to one another, or a geographically dispersed set of individuals where the group experiences the same common conditions. So it might be migrant workers or tribes. We just did this with a map that made more sense, right? So big tax credits that I really, really like are 48E. If you are in the solar community and you are producing less than or equal to 5 megawatts of power, there is a 50% stackable tax credit. If you're doing things on a low-income community census tract, if you're located on Indian land, if you're located in a low-income residential building project, 50% stackable, plus the economic benefit project. You can stack it however you'd like. The guidance is out. That's that link for more information here. Read it. It's a very short, brief, to the point website that my little office actually created. We will actually be the filter for your applications before they get to the IRS. So the agency will act as the expert and filter before the IRS sees your application. So be nice to me. No, I'm kidding. Just make sure that you get registered in those systems, which should be open before the end of this month. There are 2 sets of guidance that are listed on that webpage, one that was released in June and another back in January. So just read up on it. But if you are in this qualifier and you want to do distributed wind, solar, energy storage through 2024, this is where you want to go for that tax credit. So not sure how many folks on this call have heard about SBIR, but it's really important to me because it is the only set of dollars that are non-dilutable, meaning we can't steal your idea. If you are an innovator, if you're an entrepreneur, if you have a novel idea to solve an industry issue and we solicit for it and you respond, it is yours. We will help you actually get the patent. We will help walk you through this entire process, but there's money on the table, which is amazing. I know that a major hurdle for businesses is startup capital. You may have a wonderful idea, but to get to execution takes a lot of capital. In this program, we will give you $200,000 to $250,000 upfront to use for a year. After that, there's some phasing that you go through, but by the end of about 7 years, you could come up to a total amount of about $4 million, all grant dollars. to get you to commercialization. That is the entire goal of this. Many folks have gone through this program and been very successful. One example of that is Dr. Lonnie Johnson, the inventor of the Super Soaker. He's gone through this program and gotten funding and been very successful, has several companies now, amazing. And so the unique part to this program is that here at DOE, we have a special program called Phase Zero. We're the only agency that has it. It's free for first timers. It's a 12-week program. And essentially you get access to all of these options on the screen here. So if you don't have a patent, we'll hook you up with a patent attorney. If you need technology advice, you get access to our resources and our people. If you need travel assistance, so let's say go talk to a subject matter expert, we will pay for that. We will help you do that. We'll also help you identify subject matter experts. But we get you to the point of establishing your letter of intent. We get you through the phase 1 proposal. We get you to the best point of engaging with this program in hopes that you win it. So please, if you've never done it before and you're a first timer, go through this program. You will get a coach that calls you every week and says, did you do what you were supposed to do? They don't write it for you, but they will look at it. They will review it. They will guide you in this process. It's really helpful. Things of importance. If you go through this program and you don't get into our SBIR program, you can go elsewhere. The proposal is yours. The idea is yours. We don't just take it on and say, you know what, we like this, but we're not going to fund you and we'll get our national lab to do all the work and you're out of this idea. What you can do is you can go to NSF, which is National Science Foundation. They have a very high success rate. You can go to DOT. You can go to Department of Defense. It's yours. But now you, at the end of this program, would have a complete proposal. So it's really beneficial. If you've not done it, please, I encourage you to go through this program. So one of my favorite offices within is the Loan Program Office. They have the lion's share of our dollars through bill and IRA. This is access to patient capital, flexible financing, and really a commitment from DOE as a partner. Things to know. They have 4 different areas that they fund. My favorite is clean energy because I'm in clean energy, right? But they also fund advanced transportation. So if you're manufacturing advanced technology vehicles or ATVs or certain components of electric vehicles, we have funding for that. The funding starts at a loan floor of $100 million. The average loan is $1 billion. This comes in at about 3% interest. It varies, but it's very low. And this is 30 years. We made Tesla what Tesla is today through this program. So if you are operating at this level or you want to pull together a consortium of companies and go after these dollars, please let me know. It's really important to me as my moonshot to actually get a company in this line, because what it will do for communities. $100 million is a game changer for quality jobs and making changes in areas that need it most. So if you're willing to do that, please contact me. A member of my team is actually inserted into the Loan Program Office and knows a whole lot about it and would be happy to talk to you. Important things to know. Once you apply, the door sort of closes. It is going to cost you about $2 to $3 million to apply, but that 2 to 3 million turns into 100 million. In terms of investments, it's a pretty good thing, right? So this is what we're seeing, right? For things that we're investing in, companies that we're looking at, everything from electrification to transmission, grid efficiency, advanced fossil, carbon, advanced nuclear, biofuels, EV charging, of course, right? So a lot of these different areas we're looking at. Right now in the pipeline, there's about 150 companies and applications that we're looking at. I'm sure some of you are thinking, what in the world is that 2 to 3 million doing in a background? Well, we are vetting you. We are trying to figure out if you are viable. So it's a deep, deep dive into your financials and the viability of your company, that if we give you this money, will you fail? We don't want you to, not in this program. With SBIR, that's a definite way that you can go through it. And if you fail and you need more time to do more research, that's the program for you. For this, we want you to take it to the next level with our 100 million or more. So these slides are here because you're going to get this deck, but I'm not going to spend too much time. All the details about each of the 4 programs is listed. So of course, if you're doing clean energy, what you need to know is that it is through a federal financing bank, an FFB loan. It is not a direct loan. In terms of the advanced manufacturing piece to this for electric vehicles, it is a direct loan, right? Through tribal energy, you're looking at also a direct check from us if you're doing renewable energy, if you're doing fossil energy, transportation of fuels, or transmission infrastructure. It must be fronted by a tribal nation that is recognized by the federal government, just so you know. If you have questions, you can talk to them until you are blue in the face, right? You can send them emails, you can call them, you can ask all the questions in the world. But once you apply, that door closes. So I encourage you, if you're interested in this and I'm not available for some reason, or you just have a very direct question for this, reach out to them. They are happy to talk to you. They have specialists that is all they do, is talk to companies that are interested. So you can scan this QR code, or you can wait to get the slide deck, but it will be available to you. Office of Clean Energy Demonstration. Love this office because they got a ton of money. To be exact, they got $25 billion. And here is how it's divvied up. So they're doing about 505 million if you're doing batteries, long duration energy storage demonstrations. If you're willing to work in rural and remote areas, key point, rural is defined as less than 10,000 people for this particular office. They're dedicating $1 billion if you're willing to do energy improvements in those areas. What this office is trying to do is make sure that no one is left behind. They're trying to make sure that all parts of the country are pulled forward as we make this energy transition. So for clean energy demonstrations on mine land in particular, they have dedicated 500 million to that. Some folks look at that and they say, what in the world does that mean? We have transitioned over the years away from coal, and there are a ton of mines that are empty and nobody's doing anything with them. And so we're saying, hey, there are a bunch of workers that were displaced, and we need to do something with this land and with these mines. So we are willing to help you procure that mine and actually do something on it. So if you're willing to do that, there's money there for you. Of course, in carbon management, we have $7 billion. So somebody believes in it behind the scenes here. Industrial demonstrations, we have $6.3 billion dedicated to that. In the regional clean energy hydrogen hubs, we have 7 billion, and advanced reactor demonstrations about 2.5. For fun projects, they've dedicated about 50 million, and hopefully they'll get more. But with every dollar they spend, you're going to see community benefits plans that are necessary. And I'll talk about that in just a second. This is an example of one of their funding opportunities. This is energy improvements in rural or remote areas. This is crucial to understand. There is not a cost share on this particular funding opportunity. And it was available for higher education, for-profit, nonprofits, states, governments, all the like for this. And you could pull together a consortia of companies and actually apply for this. Unfortunately, there was a pre-application that has since passed. It's important to know that you must include your presentation and your application in that pre-app in order to participate. So it's really important that you actually sign up. I will tell you comfortably that it's likely that they didn't exhaust these funds. So be ready for it to come back out. Watch the webinar, read all about it, and get ready for when it comes back around if you are interested in doing this work. But with it, you will have to have a community benefits plan. Essentially, we want to see what your work will be around these 4 areas of Justice 40, which we talked about, workforce and community agreements. What's your plan for DEIA? Note that we at the federal level include the A for accessibility. And good jobs. What does that look like? If you're working with labor unions, what does that relationship look like? You will have to tell us in these 4 priorities what you will do, make them measurable metrics. Okay, when you actually submit this to us. So they are part of all the contractual obligations that we have. So just knowing that up front, be prepared. All right, manufacturing energy supply chain. This office also has a massive budget. Things to know about them. Their forwards are a little lengthy, in my opinion, but they're very detailed. They will tell you everything that you need to know in writing. So reading is still fundamental. So they have $750 million if you are interested in manufacturing. If you want to build a new facility, we have money for that. Or if you are already in it, or there's an established facility that you'd like to take over or expand, we will give you money for that. This is actually a priority for firms that are minority owned, which we never really see. Historically, we don't see this. So if you are in the area where you're doing less than 100 million, fewer than 500 employees, and your annual energy bill has a total of 100,000 or less than 2.5 million, you would qualify for this if you're an existing manufacturer. So those are just the qualifiers. So if you are a manufacturer currently, or you know one, ask them to get what we call a energy audit, which is done by what we know internally as our IAC assessment. If you want to become one, if you scan these QR codes, you can become one as a for-profit entity. This is new. We've not done this before. Usually it's in higher education institutions that do this. But the cool part is if you get an assessment done and you are a manufacturer, we're willing to go 50-50 with your upgrades. Okay. So up to $300,000. So you're willing to spend $600,000, we'll give you 300, but you have to have an energy assessment on file with one of the IAC centers. Okay. So the top part of this is we've got 150 million if you want to become one. Wonderful. The bottom part is we've got over 400 million to help you make these energy upgrades to your facilities. Same office. I'm going to give you a bunch of links here. What's important is the total funding amount is on the right side. That's the total pot. If you click on these and they are closed, I promise you, they're probably going to come back out, right? That's why I've included them here. I know that the funds have not been exhausted completely, and it's very likely that it'll come back. So if you're interested, start reading about it, sign up for their newsletters. Everything in government comes in writing. They will tell you when it's available again. Two more, same office. They've got money for electric heat pumps. If you're installing electric heat pumps, you should read up on this. We've got $250 million reserved for it. And if you're doing domestic manufacturing conversion plans for electric vehicles, $2 billion. Okay. Prizes. Prizes are a new thing. I'm a year into government. Again, I came from the private sector, and so this is very new. Essentially, we got around Congress a little bit, and we're able to put more dollars out into the world faster. So right now, we have a Make It prize, and this prize has about $30 million in total funding, and we're looking to domestic manufacturing on this. So there's two tracks: facilities and strategies. This is just giving you, right, this is an active one that's open. You can go out and apply for it. It's not due until October 18th. Basically, you're going to submit your statement of intent, right? And you're going to tell us all about your team and your clean energy technology that you want to manufacture. Okay, that's phase one. Phase two, we're going to pick 12 winners, and we're going to say, we'll give you $500,000 each, and you're giving us a plan at that point. Phase three, you're shovel ready and you actually want to go and get your permits and you want to have full control of your site and financing, all of that good stuff. We'll give you 4.5 million to actually stand it up. That means October 18th, you submit. By May of 2025, you could have $5 million in total to fund your operation. It's not a bad deal. In terms of the strategies track, this is smaller dollars, but we are really looking for a roadmap in establishing clean energy manufacturing in regions. So by the end of this, we want you to have a letter of commitment from an entity that's interested in going into manufacturing for clean energy. Total dollars in this one is about $400,000. This is a lot of idea-based. Government doesn't know everything, and so we're soliciting for it. This is your opportunity to engage. There are 2 rounds of this, so 2 opportunities to walk through these phases. The first one is due October 18th, and then we'll do it again. February 15th is a due date for the second round. You will also, you're not going to find this on sam.gov. You're not going to find it on grants.gov. It doesn't live there. This is a totally different program. You still need to be registered in those systems. Make no doubt about that at all. That's how we pay you, right? That's why we need that information in those systems. But this is on herox.com, not .gov, but .com. Really important to know, but you'll get these links. Another example, which will likely come back out, is called the Buildings Upgrade Prize. This has a $400,000 cash prize, and we want a plan that's scalable and replicable to upgrade existing buildings in disadvantaged communities. That's it. That's it. That really was it. The other track for this particular one is a $200,000 cash prize. Same thing, scalable, replicable, but in a geographic area or a particular building type. This was for a plan. This wasn't for you to actually do it. So know that if this came out in July, it's likely to come back again in the fall, winter months. Another example for a prize. This was released early in the year, so I'm predicting that it'll probably come out before the end of the year. This is to renew schools. This is as a $500 million pot. We've got to spend before 26, $100 million, okay? These are competitive grants, but this is for energy improvements. So if you were doing repairs, renovations, if you were installing HVAC, if you were doing electric vehicle charging stations, anything to do with that, you would need an agreement with the school district, which we basically call local educational agency, a LEA, and you. Even if you're not a contractor, you can be an entity of your own and say, I'm going to build a team to do this, as long as you have an agreement with the local educational agency. So be ready for that. And state community energy programs, last department that I'll talk about, has $17 billion of funding. Most of their dollars flows to the cities and towns without reservation. Some of them are just reserved for states, but it's at the municipality level. They've got a bunch of money. Home energy improvements, 4.3 billion. High efficiency energy home rebates, 4.5. Contractor training grants, 200 million, $1 billion in building codes. That's what this whole office is really responsible for, weatherization and these kinds of updates and rebates. So if you want to know where exactly the dollars are and how to get to them, the 200 million is at the state level in the energy offices. The energy auditor training program starts at the state energy office and then it's funneled to cities and towns, but there's 40 million there. There's another 10 million for higher education institutions for these building training and assessment centers. And then they have 10 million reserved just for nonprofits. In that 10 million, they actually reserve dollars to be paid to the person going through the training so that they could have a wage, a living wage. Same office, they're offering two nonprofits that have a physical location, $200,000. This closed a couple months ago. They did not exhaust the funds. It's for 501c3s to use on their buildings to do energy savings, energy efficiency that'll save them dollars. So just to have to prove in that one that there's energy savings achieved, cost effectiveness of the actual plan, and an effective plan for evaluation. How are we going to measure this? And what's the financial need of the applicant, right? Workforce development. Everybody says that we need this. This is the last one, Kyle. We don't have a whole lot of money in the workforce area, but this is a lengthy list of what is current at the Department of Labor. Lastly, this is my contact info. You can reach out to me. You can email me. I'm terrible with cell phones, so forgive me. That's why I didn't list my phone number, because I don't even know what it sounds like. It rings so often, and I have to manage several cell phones. So you can scan that QR code. It'll bring you to my virtual business card, but feel free to email me. I will meet with any and everybody. I have a team that helps me out to meet with folks. So that is the full scope. Do we have questions?
Yeah, I think we do have a couple questions. Go ahead, Dr. Henry. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. Yes, we do have a couple of questions, but first, just want to say thank you, Shalaya, for just providing all this valuable information to our attendees. So we have a question from the group. This company is asking anonymously, do you foresee opportunities to do the auditing related to releasing these funds that you mentioned, or have those audit contracts already been completed?
So help me understand. I think what the person is intending to say is that there is a report out of how we spend dollars, right? And there is a need for an audit possibly on Justice 40, right? Did we actually comply with this executive order? I do anticipate that they will have to do this. It has not been identified just yet, as far as I know. Doesn't mean that they haven't behind the scenes. I'm not responsible for that piece. So that's the tough part. There's also a question in the chat. I will be in town for Black Caucus this week. I'm not attending the actual caucus. I'm doing a lot of speaking, but I will do my best to make time. If you send me an email, yes, I will make myself available as much as I possibly can. It will probably be after hours, to be honest with you, because I have in-person meetings and speaking, but yes, happy to. I see another question in the chat, but you can keep going, Dr. Henry, too. I'm just reading here.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. Okay, no problem. Another question asking, are you able to make this presentation? This is from Deborah K. Thompson. Are you able to make this presentation again to their National Association of Black Women in Construction,
Yes.
Incorporated in October 2023? They have
Yes.
some members in this space and others who are interested in the EV charging station.
Absolutely. Not a problem at all. Happy to do it. Shoot me a date, send me an email, and I will get you on the calendar and we'll make it happen.
Do you mind, Shalay?
Okay, and I'm gonna go through a few questions that were submitted pre-webinar. And
While you're going through that, Dr. Henry Shalaya, do you mind switching back to your contact information? It looks like people were trying to get that still.
No problem. No problem at all. There you go.
I know why Dr. Henry's looking there. I had one that came in before, and it was just simply, how do you utilize the GSA MAS schedule to serve the United States Department of Energy?
okay, are we ready for the next question?
Oh, we are, but I think we were jumping in with another one about the GSA. So I don't use it that often. So here's the some of the issues that I'm learning about. Most of the department is now spread out. COVID really allowed us to work remotely. And so supplies and the basics are limited, right? We're still going through our lovely magazines to order furniture. But usually when they're seeing these sort of like massive orders for basic supplies, right? We're talking about furniture, we're talking about paper, basics. It's happening when administration changes, right? Because internally there's sort of a shift of new person in charge, and I want the paint on the walls to be a different color, and I want new furniture. This is, my honest feedback to you. I have been approached by many entities that say, hey, we're a vendor, we can do this, we can do that. And there hasn't been a huge push or need for it necessarily. I have put folks in touch with our procurement people to say, here's the folks that are responsible for that thing. And that's the best that I've seen so far. But there's not a huge rush to spend a lot of money in those areas. I hope that makes sense.
Do you have opportunities in technology innovation such as AI and RPA?
Yes, so we do. It's mostly with our national labs. We do have two offices. AI is one of them. And then there's the cybersecurity office. They have a heavy focus on security for the electrical grid right now. We know that's an area that we are worried about. And we know that we need to do something before something goes awry. So if you are interested in those, I encourage you to look at those two offices. They don't have a lot of money right now. I recently just did a deep dive to look at those two departments. I anticipate we're at the end of the fiscal year that you'll see more in probably January. But if you're looking to do some of the IP stuff, there is an opportunity. Let me just pull it up here. That is a prize where you could tap into some of our intellectual property stuff that we have in our lab. It's 3 labs: Sandia Lab, the NREL Lab, and Oak Ridge. So let me just drop that in the chat so you can see that. Bear with me. That prize is in the chat now for everyone to see. But it is the ability to go into our vaults. We're giving up to $620,000, 3-phase competition to take some of our, I'll say, our IP and take it to market. We're looking to let you take some of our stuff and get it out to commercialization. So it's a really cool opportunity. I've not seen it in the last year to do something like this. Most important part about this is really your team as a whole. Who will be on your team that has the background and the skill set to execute? That's going to be really important for that application.
Okay, here's another question. Is past performance in government contracting crucial to get into the DOE as a new contract?
Yes, 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 yes. I don't know anybody that is brand new and doesn't have a lengthy track record. So in order to do that, you want to start to target. It is public knowledge who we give our money to. right? You can find this information in several different ways. If you want to deep dive into that, shoot me an email and I'll get one of my folks to actually walk you through, because it is pretty intensive. But you can identify through a couple of tricks, hey, who has a contract for concrete at one of our nuclear facilities? That might be something that you do or that you want to do. You then have the responsibility of saying, hey, I do good work. Can we work together, right? Don't do it for just one contract, though. I encourage you to think bigger. When you approach some of these larger primes that have to carry the heavy burden of bonding and insurance, and if they lose, they have to take that loss, right? So let's say they come up short in the contract and they figure out, I can't get more money out of the federal government, I underbid myself. Well, we're not going to change the way that we work to give you more money in most instances. So when you go after them in a way that says, maybe someday that I will acquire them, or maybe they'll acquire me. Make it a long-term relationship. Don't do it just for one contract. Just think bigger when you go down that route. But yes, past performance is a huge deal for us. If you're doing the contract side to things, you want to get in touch with our Oswego office. I will make that introduction for you. That's the Office of Small Disadvantaged Businesses. That's incredibly helpful. They have about a $10 million budget, but it's simply to help businesses. So feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to do that for you.
Okay, here's another question. Within all the energy related initiatives at a strategic level, are there opportunities to help with all the back-end data management needs or analytics?
Oh, this is a heavy question. All right. This is a personal concern for me of who's gonna protect the data, right? Who's gonna actually be responsible for it. Governance is crucial. I don't think that we have a solution just yet. Government's a little slow, right? We try to be ahead of the curve, but historically it shows that we're slow. So I don't think that we've gotten that far, truthfully. That's my honest answer.
Will DOE have a role in the purchasing and deployment of EV charging stations?
Oh, we do. So there is what we call the NEVI plan. It's the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Plan. And every state has submitted a plan already. They've all been approved. And I'll grab that website for you and put it in the chat. You can view the entire plan. And your state is telling you how they plan to actually administer those funds. Folks have already gotten checks, right? It is either at the DOT level for your state, or it's at the energy office, or a combination. That was determined by the states when they applied of how they wanted to do it. And we didn't dictate how they did it. They just gave us a plan. We reviewed it. We said, we like it, we love it, we hate it, whatever that looked like. But they've all been approved. So this information is out there. And you can look at it state by state and pull up all of the plans. So let me just pull that for you. And there's a whole data center around that. Let's see, that is here. And you can download the plans by state here. Other questions, and I can sort of multitask and do both if there are others.
Sure, yes, we have a few more. Does citizenship matter in qualifying as a minority or small disadvantaged business? For an example, does an African American company owner classify as a minority?
And that was African American owner?
Afghan,
I thought so. It depends on where you get your certification. Some certifications, for example, like the 8A program, you would have to at some point prove that you had an experience where you were discriminated against, and that's something that you have to reveal. So are you a disadvantaged business? Are you minority businesses? These certifications are interesting, and I'm learning a lot about them because there are layers to how they're done, right? I will tell you, like, Minority Business Development Agency, they're the only federal agency dedicated to minorities. They do not consider all women as minority businesses. If you are a woman of color, if you fit into their demographics, you do qualify. So it just depends. It is not necessarily a limitation. on us. So we don't particularly reserve dollars for minorities, right? The only call out that you'll see is with tribal nations, right? But outside of that, it is open to everyone. It is supposed to be a fair process, but there are certain metrics that some folks have set for themselves, and they have to abide by that since they put it in writing.
Okay, we have another question. What would be the first steps for a small EV company to apply for the opportunities related to manufacturing?
If you are not registered in SAMS, I'm going to beat you up. Go in there and get registered. That we can't do business. So everybody yells at me because I push that. The thing that you need to know once you get in there and you register, please put in an email address and a phone number that you actually will respond to, and that no matter who's running the company, you will have access to. Super, super important, because that's how we communicate with you. And you will have to go in year over year and confirm this information is accurate. If you go inactive, it is painful to go back in and try to get access to all your stuff. So utilize your resources, get in there if you need help. There's plenty of technical assistance, but I'm sure Kyle is available, knows how to do this stuff. I know how to do this stuff. Get in there. It is not rocket science. You can do it on your own, but if you're not comfortable, get the help you need to get registered in those systems first. You cannot engage in contracts with us if you're not in those systems. After that, start to look at some of the grants that you'll get in this, because these are active, these are open. You can go into grants.gov and filter down. You can look at all the agencies. You can just look at Department of Energy. You can then start to put in keywords and pull up things that are really related to your industry in the electric vehicle space. And that's how you start to look at what's for me, what is worth my time. I'm sorry, sam.gov is where you register to get, it used to be Dunn's number, but now it's a different number. But that is your initial sort of engagement with the federal government, where you're getting your unique identifiers in order to engage with us. I hope that is helpful.
Okay, thank you. So another question someone is asking, they're saying that they have a ton of experience, but it's not necessarily governmental. So does that still count when it comes to pursuing opportunities with DOE?
Yes, it does. So I'll give you an example. One of the largest utility companies in the country is Southern Company, right? They own 47 different entities, utility entities. They operate in the billions of dollars. If you said, Shalea, hey, I've done 100 million with them over the last 5+ years, that's significant. When you come to the feds and you say, I've been doing this, you want to make sure that it's in the ballpark of what you're getting to potentially receive from us. You need to prove that our making an investment in you and trusting you with taxpayer dollars is the right thing to do, right? It's not a gimme. We as an agency, as the federal government, are risk averse. So when you're coming to us, you need to prove to us that you are a good place to spend our money, right? That you are not going to fail. That's why we ask for past performance. It proves to us that you have already done a good job, and that there's another company that you've worked under that says, yes, they're a viable company. They're not going to take your money and run. They're not going to fail. They're going to do what they said they're going to do. So yes, you can use outside past performance as, your leg of experience, but you want to make sure that you really articulate why that's a good reference. That's what you want to do with that information.
And I just want to step in and say answer one of the questions that's come up a couple times. The slides and the recording are going to be available in the next coming days. So we'll get that out to you. So to answer that. And so to be respectful of time, we'll try to take a couple more questions. Keep putting them in the Q&A box, please.
Okay, we have another question. So for those states that are not applying for funds, how do companies work around that decision?
Oh, this has come up. I imagine that you're probably talking about where Kyle is in Florida, as well as places like Kentucky and Mississippi. It has been difficult. There's direct funding, of course. You can do business with the federal government, right? And there are other opportunities where you can partner with a city or town, and they can go after funding. directly with the federal government. So example, EPA has an opportunity out, I think for another couple of days, called Solar for All. It was basically, hey, you got a big landfill and nothing has been done with it. It's in compliance. Why don't we convert that to a solar farm? That's a way that you could participate directly because it was not reliant on the states to apply. A for-profit entity and a city could go after it, or the owners of that landfill could go after those dollars. The same is true for the Department of Energy, right? We sort of knew that, or someone knew that, right, behind the scenes, that we would need to make it open for cities and towns to participate directly in a lot of this funding. So it is possible to engage.
Is DOE involved in the development of offshore wind projects?
Yes and no. We want it to happen. We are more involved in the what we want to be involved. We haven't released it yet. You can look this up in Congress. We asked for $40 million. It was denied around workforce development. We recognize that we do not have the workforce that is ready to do things in this, I'll call somewhat new industry of offshore wind. And so we want to make sure that we're preparing people. There's a lot of transferable skills in that particular slice of energy. If you're doing offshore drilling, you probably have a space in offshore wind, right? There's just so many transferable skills, but we want to make sure for those that are new that we're able to train them and at least partner in industry or with higher education to get people trained to step into that particular sector. So we are not developing right now, as far as I know, offshore wind projects ourselves. But we are leaving a lot of that up to states that want to do that, especially because it's heavy on the regulatory side. We are not a regulatory agency. That's folks like PHMSA and even EPA is considered regulatory. We are not.
Okay, we have another question. Someone's asking, how may a new person in government contracting be of an assistance to DOE?
So it depends on what you do, but you can certainly send me your statement of capabilities and I will gladly put it into my wheelhouse. But I encourage you, if what you do is kind of universal, go after all of us. Don't limit yourself to just DOE. There's so much money out here. Don't stop at one. If you get DOD, DOT, DOL, I mean, the alphabet soup is real. Department of Labor, Department of Transportation, Environmental Protection Agency. There are so many in the federal family that you should not limit yourself. And I see that Bert is registered in SAM. Good job. Just make sure it's all accurate too.
Yes, thank you so much. Cal, do you see any other questions on your end? I'm not seeing any others.
I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment. So, if does anybody else have any other questions? We'll leave it open for another minute here.
And I'm scrolling through to make sure that I haven't missed anything. And I know that if you are registered, I will get your information and I'll likely send you a little note that says hello to invite you to our next Ask Us Anything. My only ask, if there aren't any questions, is if you email me, give me grace. I can tell you that I travel just about every week to do these kinds of speaking engagements and community engagements. So if I don't respond right away or respond at a very odd time of day, it's probably because I'm in a different time zone from you or I'm on the road. So just give me grace if I don't respond. And I am never offended if you bump up that email and say, hey, I know you're busy. Here's the action that I need you to take, set up a meeting, whatever that is.
Okay, well, I think that does it. You have Shalea's contact information. If you do have questions, want to connect with her, you have our contact information here at Proposal Helper and BidExecs. Please reach out if you have any questions further. The slides, the recording, they will be sent out to you. So you'll have that. And if questions still arise from that point, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. But thanks for joining and stay tuned for our next informative webinar and stay safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Shalea.
Thank you to everyone.